Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome an accomplished marketing professional and an author from Idaho, USA, Sara Nay. Sara, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Sarah is the Chief Executive Officer of Duct Tape Marketing. She's also an author of a book titled Unchained, Breaking Free from Broken Marketing Models. So, Sarah, before we talk about your book, a few questions for you. You started Duct Tape Marketing as an intern in 2010, and today you're the CEO. What were some of the defining moments in your journey?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been quite a journey for about 16 years now. And so, as you mentioned, I started as an intern, part-time even, not even knowing if this marketing thing was where I wanted to go or the direction I wanted to stay. But I absolutely fell in love with our mission and the clients that we get to serve. And so
Mm,
I moved from intern to community manager to account manager, fractional CMO for our clients, COO for our business, and then eventually this last December, as you said, in the CEO seat. And I've
mm,
learned a lot over the years. I feel very fortunate to be able to lead now because I've been in so many different roles that I know what it's like to be an account manager for clients and
mm,
to feel pulled in a bunch of directions and to be spread too thin. And so when I'm leading these people now, I've been there, I've walked in their shoes, and so I'm able to relate and help coach them, to better situations in most cases.
amazing. And was there ever a point when you considered leaving marketing altogether? And if yes, what brought you back on track?
Yeah, honestly, marketing is really enjoyable, but it's an industry that is changing very quickly,
Mm,
especially over the last couple of years. And I know we're probably going to talk about AI at some point in this interview as it comes up,
yeah.
but there's been several times over my career, over the last 16 years, where I've had questions. I've been close to burnout. I didn't know if this was the right path for me, but I always come back to help when I feel those things. I'm able to help prioritize what I'm working on and where I'm spending my time and saying no to things. I'm a yes
Mhm.
person, so saying no to things helps. But I've always come back because, as I mentioned earlier, I absolutely believe there's a need in the small business world
Mm,
for leadership and strategy and AI and elevating humans. And so that's what I'm passionate about. And when we can
mm,
come in and take a client from being completely confused, frustrated, and overwhelmed and spending a ton of in terms of marketing but not getting results to having clarity and understanding why they're doing what they're doing and actually getting results in their business, it's a completely rewarding experience.
fascinating. Let's now talk about your book first, and then we'll come to AI in business and marketing.
Yeah.
Your book is titled Unchained, Breaking Free from Broken Marketing Models. What was your Monday night moment when the
Yeah.
realization that marketing model was broken?
Yeah, and so I just mentioned, I've been close to burnout a few times. That Monday night moment was one of my biggest, I would say. And so it was about 6 years ago. I was holding my daughter, who was a baby at the time, on my chest, and she was
Mhm.
sick. And like a little baby, when they're sick, it was hard for her to breathe. She was wheezing. She just needed her mom. And at the same time, I had my phone behind her head, and I was texting a client back and forth about the shade of a blue in an image we were going to post on
Mm,
social
mm,
media.
mm,
And this woman was so upset with the choices we were making, and it was distracting me from being there for my daughter. And so it was a big aha moment for me. I actually set my phone down, realized what I was doing,
mm,
because I am pursuing my career to be there for my family. And at that moment, I was completely divided when I should have been
mm,
there. And so I went on a walk. Actually, we have some trails out of our backyard here, and so I went on a walk. No headphones, just silence. And that's the way I can do my best thinking. And I had an aha moment of I couldn't sustain what I was currently doing at Duct Tape Marketing. And at that point, I was serving as fractional CMO and account manager to pretty much all of our clients and trying
mhm,
to run operations. So I had multiple hats. And so that's when I started, though, feeling the deep challenges in the agency model because I was working so closely with our team for implementation, but also all of our clients as
mm,
well. And so I started to just really pay attention to what I thought was broken in the model. And that was my biggest aha moment. But I've
Mm,
had hundreds, if not thousands, of conversations with small businesses and agencies at this point. And so it's not just based on my opinions or thoughts. This is from talking to many others.
mm,
And where I think a lot of people struggle in the small business space with marketing is they either try to bring it in-house, but they don't really have true leadership or direction because maybe the CEO is now becoming the CMO because they'd have to. And then they're trying to lead a marketer. So, like, that's one challenge. Or a lot of small businesses just outsource their marketing to agencies, contractors, solutions, and then they lose control ultimately. And
mm,
so I believe the best path forward, and I call it the anti-agency model, not saying that agencies are bad by any means, but the best path forward is based on collaboration. So
mm,
it's bringing in, let's say, a fractional CMO or an outside expert to help create the marketing strategy with you based on the business strategy,
mm,
to help analyze who's currently on your team and where your potential gaps are, and then to help you answer the questions of who's going to get the work done now that we have the strategy mapped out. Is it going to be this agency? Is it going to be hiring? Is it going to be bringing in AI solutions to up level your current team?
mm,
But it's not a one size fits all solution. It's, understanding the business strategy, the marketing strategy, and then coming up with the best possible solution for that small business. And
mm.
so the reason I call it anti-agency is a lot of agencies just come in and offer, I'll come execute these different campaigns for you. And it's a little bit of more of a one size fits all path. And then they're
Mm,
really taking over the control.
mm.
So it's all based on collaboration and partnership.
Well said. And what's the biggest trap you see small businesses falling into when it comes to renting marketing instead of owning it?
Yeah, there's a couple of stories that I've talked about in the book. I was speaking to a couple partners a little bit while ago, and they own a home remodeling company, and they were paying a contractor $6,000 a month for Google Ads, and they had no idea how much of that was going to the contractor for
Mm,
their fees and how much of it was actually going to the Google Ads. And then on top of that, they didn't even have access to this Google Ads account because the
mm,
contractor built it on their own account. And so basically, these people they just kept paying because they're like, we feel like we need to be spending money on Google Ads, but they had absolutely no idea if they were getting results or where their money was even going. And then
right.
to make matters worse, when they decided they wanted to part ways with this person, they basically had to start over on an ads account because they weren't owning their own.
Mm,
And so, unfortunately, I hear stories like that all the time. It's very common. And that's an example of just completely like renting out your marketing to someone and trusting and hoping that it works.
correct.
Um, we've always had the mindset with our clients of we'll build on your systems. So you own the website, you own the paid accounts, you own everything that we're doing, and you're
Mm,
basically giving us access to it.
mm.
And so we're building assets and systems within your business that you own that when we part ways, you're better off than when we first came in.
Great response. Thank you. And Sarah, what's one broken marketing practice you still see repeated, which was the inspiration for you to write Unchained?
Yeah, I talk a lot about strategy, and we've been in business for 31 years
Mm,
at this point at Duct Tape Marketing. And over those 31 years, we've always preached strategy before tactics. And I think that's getting even more heightened now with how marketing is evolving. But where I see most small businesses, or just businesses in general, doesn't even have to necessarily be small in this scenario, making mistakes is they just dive into all of these different tactics because they feel like they need to, and they haven't taken a step back to actually create the strategy as to understanding who their target market is and understanding what message resonates with them, and then mapping out the customer journey and
mm,
content strategy. You have to put all of that work in before you can then say what channels should we be on.
right.
And so people will launch paid ads, for example, without nailing the ideal client profiles and the messaging or the customer journey that those paid ads should guide them on. So they're wasting money on that. And then another element that I see a lot is small businesses struggle with understanding what to track in order to understand if they should keep doing certain things or not. And
Mm,
so marketing should start with an overall strategy, but then it should include quarterly strategic planning from there, where you're doing a deep dive on your metrics and then you're
Yeah.
planning out your next few months.
Mm,
But you really need to understand what the metrics is telling you, or you will just keep spending. We have a
mm.
client that we've been working on with this year, and we've actually saved him $400,000 in marketing spend this year because when
Wow.
we came in and started working with them, we were simply asking the questions of where are you spending this money? Why is it
Mm.
working? And we uncovered that a lot of it was wasted spend. And so their revenue has grown and they've saved $400,000 this year.
Amazing. Amazing. Thank
Yeah.
you. How does the marketing hourglass framework help businesses turn buyers into raving fans?
Yeah. It's one of my favorite frameworks that we teach. And so a lot of people have their own take on the customer journey. Ours is called the marketing hourglass. And so the hourglass is how can people get to know, like, trust, try, buy, repeat, and refer. And
Mm.
so to your question, the hourglass turns people into raving fans because if you do it well and you think through how can you nurture and educate and build trust through each of those stages,
Mm.
they're going to go through the whole entire journey with you. They're going to, become clients. They're going to become repeat clients, hopefully, and then they're ultimately going to refer you because they had such an incredible experience through the
Right.
whole entire marketing hourglass. And so a lot of people think of launching a referral program as, I'll just start asking my clients for referrals, which, yes, you should ask, but you also have to gain the opportunity to ask
Mm.
along the way. And that's
Yeah.
by nurturing people effectively through the
Mm.
hourglass.
Mm. One more question about your book, and then I want to move to AI in business and marketing. Looking ahead, how do you see the principles of Unchained evolving in the next 5 to 10 years as AI and marketing continue to change?
Yeah. Who knows what's going to happen in the next five to
Correct.
10 years, but in
Correct.
the next shorter term, and my prediction really is I do think that small businesses are going to continue to need more leadership. You still need someone to understand marketing. You still need people to understand the business and what they're trying to accomplish. You need people to be empathetic. You need people to connect with other humans. Like there's still going to be a need, I believe, for human marketers. But what I see potentially happening in the next several years is there are AI solutions that are able to help with a lot of the tactical execution when it comes to marketing. And so I heard someone refer to it as the great flattening of the org chart. Instead of having deep roles within marketing, it's going to be a little bit flatter, where maybe you have a marketing leader, and then you maybe have a project manager, and then you have AI solutions that are doing things like optimizing from an SEO standpoint, assisting with creating content, assisting with managing and running ads. And so before you needed humans in those roles. I'm not saying I think AI should replace humans at this point by any means, because I don't think it's there yet.
Mm.
But I do see a future where there's probably going to be less bodies and marketing
Mm.
departments that
Yeah.
are being elevated by AI solutions.
Well said. Let's now talk about AI in business and marketing. And in an age dominated by AI, why do you believe strategy before tactics or tech remains the most important principle?
Yeah. So it's been interesting with AI over the last couple of years is I feel like people were really excited to bring it into their businesses and even had the mindset of
Yeah,
we can fire everyone. Now
correct.
we have these AI solutions, and there's
Hmm.
just all this excitement and hype and like people fearing their careers in the marketing space and other
Yeah.
spaces as well. But I feel like that's started to settle down a little bit because people were bringing in these AI solutions without the proper strategy in
Hmm.
place,
Hmm.
and so ultimately, they were just creating more noise, confusion, complication, and realized that they, yes, still need humans in these seats. And so, where people miss the mark with bringing in AI solutions is they'll bring in a chat GPT, let's say, without actually thinking through, like, what are we trying to accomplish with
Hmm.
chat GPT? Where can we elevate our roles? Where can we make the most impact? But
Hmm.
then they also don't take the time to train ChatGPT with their strategy. And so when you bring in a solution like ChatGPT, you should spend some time training it on things like your ideal clients, your core message, your tone of voice, your leadership stories,
Mm,
all of the information that you can think of, sales call recordings, like
mm,
that should all go into a chat GPT. So then you're not just creating generic content moving forward, but
correct.
then the next step is training your team on how to use these tools
Mm,
consistently and effectively.
mm,
So it's strategy to decide what to bring in, and then it's strategy included to train these solutions, and then it's training your team. You really need all of those pieces
mm.
in order to actually be able to make an impact.
Well said. But tell me, what is the biggest misconception a lot of small business and business owners have about using AI in marketing?
This one might be a little controversial in some sorts, but a lot of people think of AI as productivity. Like,
Hmm.
I'm going to be more productive. I'm
Yeah.
going to be faster. I'm going to be able to be more efficient. I'm going to be able to get more done. I
Mm,
think that's one way to think of it, but I think you're really limiting your viewpoint if you're thinking about it that way.
mm,
In my book, I talk about an exercise that I had my team go through where essentially we had everyone write down what they're doing on a regular basis,
mhm,
all of the tasks, all the reoccurring projects, like everything that they're doing. And then they basically analyze that list to say what's increasing in value because of AI, what's staying in stable, and what's decreasing in
mm,
value. And then from there, we looked at, what do they enjoy doing? Where do they make an impact? Where do they provide the most value? But then we basically made a plan for how can we delegate or offload the stuff that's decreasing in value because of AI or staying stable so we can spend most of our time on the stuff that's increasing in value. And then we had everyone write future bios. And I think if you go through this exercise, it changed your mindset of AI is not just going to help me move faster. AI is going to help me do better work.
mm. Well said. And what's the first step, in your opinion, solo marketers or small agencies should take before introducing AI into their workflow?
I would go through that exercise that I just talked through to uncover, where your specific opportunity is. But then I would look at packages or offers that you do on a regular basis. And so
Mm,
our initial offer for our clients is called Strategy First. It's a 30 to 45-day engagement. That's the entry point for every single small business that comes and
mm,
works with us. And so for me, that's initially where I started because I was like, this is something that's really important to us. It's really valuable. We're doing it very consistent. And
mm,
so I analyzed the whole package step by step. And
mm,
I started asking, how could we use AI to get more information, to do better research? And so as part of that, we do things like competitive research. Now we can do deep research reports and get pages and pages of information that would have taken us hours to get earlier in 15 minutes. And
mm,
so, my advice to a solo marketer or an agency is look at what you're currently offering to clients,
mm.
and then where can you add more value by bringing in AI or free up some of your mental space to be that strategic thinker, that higher level visionary.
Mm. Well said. Great advice. But the other thing, Sarah, is that many marketers feel quite overwhelmed
Mm.
by AI tools. How can they pause and choose wisely instead of jumping on every new trend?
Yeah, and I'm actually die hard on a few tools is my approach, and so I use Ella, which is Ella is a marketing tool built for marketers for marketing purposes only. So it's
Mhm.
similar to like a Chat GPT, but it's built for marketing, and that's the main solution. So I use Ella very deeply, and I use Chat GPT very deeply. I've
Mm.
chosen those two tools to spend a lot of my time in
Yeah.
because those two tools are so complex and can do so much.
Mm.
I'm in a mastermind group though with people, and they literally sign up for every tool. They test every single tool. They're
Mm.
comparing Claude and Jasper and all Perplexity and all the things at
Yeah.
once. And I think it just depends on how your mind works. If you
Right.
want to explore and spend time doing all of those things, and then that doesn't overwhelm you, that's okay. But
Mm.
if you are feeling overwhelmed, there's so much you could learn and do with just
Right.
ChatGPT or one solution. So I would
Absolutely.
say start with one, start a little bit smaller.
Mm.
Don't feel like you need to know every tool, and then your needs will eventually evolve and grow and grow that way.
Great response. I have time for two more questions for you. How do you
Okay.
maintain a human first approach to marketing in an AI driven world?
Yeah. And that's where I think a lot of people are struggling a bit because if I get on LinkedIn, for example, I see LinkedIn AI posts. It's very clear. But then now when I post anything, I get a ton of LinkedIn AI comments. You can tell right away that it's
Mm,
AI driven. And so I think that's where a lot of people are struggling is they're, again, using it to move faster, but they're losing that human element and
mm,
touch. And so, as I was talking about earlier, a lot of it comes down to training a chat GPT or the tool of your choice on your brand, your story, all of that stuff, your tone of voice on the front end, your
mm,
insight, your wisdom, your sales calls, any webinars you do, like all of that stuff. If you can give AI that, it will help you keep your human element when you're using it to create content or whatever you're using it for. But also, I always talk about, and a lot of people are talking about this human on the front end, human on the back end. And so let's say I'm using my ChatGPT to write a LinkedIn post. Like it already has all the training of me in there, my book, like
yeah.
everything. And so then I'll have ChatGPT help write me a LinkedIn post, but then I absolutely spend time editing it, tweaking it, making it sound like me further. I then give that back to ChatGPT so it can learn again how to get closer next time. But
Mm.
then I take it to LinkedIn and then I manually post it. And so it's that human element on the front end and it's that human element on the back end is going to what is the most powerful combination.
Fascinating. My last question for you, Sarah. Do you see AI as replacing certain marketing roles, or does it simply shift the focus towards creativity and emotional intelligence?
Yeah. I think right now it's shifting the focus. I don't, if you interviewed me in 2 years, I don't know what I would say to
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I do think there are some roles that it's getting closer to potentially replacing
Mm.
when it's just a lot more of like that tactical, like research based stuff. ChatGPT is way better at research than humans
Hmm.
and faster. And
Yeah.
so it's just there's certain elements of marketing that it will replace, but I think that's just a challenge to marketers to elevate what they can provide to elevate that leadership and that emotional intelligence and that strategic thinking and that understanding the big picture. And
Mm.
so if you really are a marketer and you're in the weeds doing all of the execution today, learn about what AI tools can help you to do the execution better so then you can spend more time working on management, leadership, communication, like those types of skills.
Well said. And on that note, Sarah, I just want to say what an amazing conversation this has been. Thank you for speaking to me about your journey, about duct tape marketing, about so many different aspects of the various kind of roles you have played. Thank you for speaking to me about your book, Unchained, Breaking Free from Broken Marketing Models, and also giving me your perspective on AI. Thank you again, and good luck to you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the brand called You.